2 names, 2 bracelets, and 2 of the most criticized World Series main event wins in poker history. Jerry Yang wasn't a poker pro. He wasn't even a grinder. He was a psychologist from California, a family man who had picked up poker casually and entered a $225 satellite at the Pechanga Resort and Casino. That small buy-in turned into a ticket to poker's biggest stage, the World Series of Poker main event. Over 6,000 players stood in his way, some of the game's sharpest minds, but somehow, Jerry Yang, an amateur with barely any tournament experience, began slicing through the field. And he didn't do it with tight play or textbook strategy, he did it with chaos. At the final table, he showed no fear. He raised relentlessly, shoved over the top, and leaned heavily on his instincts. His style wasn't polished, it wasn't elegant, it was unpredictable, and at times, reckless. Later, he knocked out Lee Childs in a brutal cooler, King Jack versus Jack 8, where Yang hit an 8.
It seems like Kravchenko's been out to sea, clinging to driftwood for days on end at this event. He's been short-stacked forever here.
7-deuce into the muck. Lee Childs now. King Jack. Poor Lee having Jerry Yang to his left this entire time.
And Lee still hasn't recovered from laying down those pocket queens against Yang.
He's going to raise it.
720.
He's going to make it 720,000. Lee never considered himself superstitious, but he and his dad been eating the same breakfast, snack, and dinner every day at the buffet. So Childs from the small blind with the raise over to Jerry Yang in the big blind. Jerry with Jack 8 of spades.
I would hate to be behind Jerry Yang in an ATM line.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and if it seems like he's playing every hand, it's because he is.
And he's got Lee squirming.
All in.
And he moves all in.
Does it again, a massive raise, and this time Lee Childs got to ask himself, do I want to risk all my chips?
He laid it down last time.
Well, my hand's not that great, but he can't possibly have all these hands.
Just make the right decision. You know what it is.
Are you really catching that many cards?
We actually saw Greg Raymer and Jamie Gold do this with the big stack. You just keep blasting away, and sometimes you might even win pots without the best hand.
I'm going to call.
And Lee Childs will call. Here we go again. First Hill, then Watkinson. Now Childs at risk, but the difference is Yang is the underdog.
Yeah, Childs made the right read, and now he's looking for the right result.
So Lee Childs has Jerry dominated with a shot at doubling up.
Come on, King! King! Oh, King! King!
Father and son have been sewn together at the hip during this main event.
All right, so here's the flop. Couple of 4s and a 6. Nothing in there to worry Childs.
Let's go club again. Let's go club again.
Childs strengthens his hold on this hand, and Yang is looking at about losing $6 million of his chips here.
Turn card. Oh, an 8 for Jerry!
Yes! Yes! More club.
But it wasn't just the cards, it was the image. The praying mid-hand, the verbal outbursts, the visible nerves. To fans, he was passionate. To pros, it was uncomfortable to watch. In one defining moment, Yang raised with pocket jacks. Hevad Khan, short-stacked but dangerous, came over the top with ace-queen of spades. Yang tanked, then called. Before the flop was out, Khan jammed his stack. The board ran out king of clubs, 4 of clubs, 2 of diamonds. No help for Khan, but there was an overcard to Yang's jacks. He made the call. 3 of clubs, 3 of spades. Yang's jacks held. It was a pattern.
But Raymond gives it up.
Yeah, he hasn't shown a lot of gamble in him today. Prudent move.
Raise back to Jerry.
How much more do you have behind?
I got about 3.5 to 4 million, Jerry.
Boy, I don't think I can lay this hand down, Con. I have a big hand.
Not a lot of people would lay down pocket jacks here, and I don't think Jerry Yang will.
All right, I call.
Jerry does make the call, and his wife Sue looking on nervously.
It's a huge pot already.
Jerry, I'm all in the dark.
That's an avant-garde move.
Wow.
All in the dark? Okay.
So you call.
No, not yet. I haven't said anything yet.
Jerry's not committing anything.
And I guess Havad's decided he's pot committed already, but he has completely eliminated his post-flop options against a guy who can bust him.
And the flop, well, no spades. Yang still leads.
Yang's getting almost 5-1 on his money. He's got to call.
I call.
He does, and there you go. Havad all in. Jerry Yang has knocked off all three players so far, and with a good shot at making it 4 in a row.
Khan's like, what am I going to do? I tried to chip up against this runaway train.
Jerry's parents forbade him from playing cards when he was a child. I think they're okay with it now. Turn card is a tray, and Khan does pick up a straight draw.
But the 22-year-old is on the brink. Khan can survive with an ace, a queen, or a 5 for a straight.
Can Jerry Yang knock off another player? The river card now. He does it again!
Yang eliminated 7 of the 8 players at that table. He didn't just outdraw opponents, he pushed them around, but not with skill, with pressure, with emotion, with guts. And that's what makes his win so polarizing. He lifted the bracelet, he became world champion. But even then, many in the poker world were already asking, was this luck or lunacy that happened to work? Jerry Yang walked away from the 2007 WSOP main event with over $8 million and a golden bracelet. But what happened next was far from a fairy tale. Right after his win, Yang made headlines again, this time for his generosity. He pledged to donate a large portion of his winnings to charities. Organizations like Make-A-Wish Foundation, the Ronald McDonald House, and his church all received sizable contributions. It was noble, heartfelt, admirable, but it also came before he secured his own financial future. Yang admitted later that he gave away too much, too soon, without understanding the tax responsibilities tied to his winnings, and he wasn't prepared for what followed. Behind the scenes, the money started to disappear. Without proper financial planning and lacking strong advice, Yang quickly found himself under pressure. The IRS came knocking. By 2013, just 6 years after his historic win, the government seized several of his assets, including his WSOP bracelet, to help pay off more than $570,000 in unpaid taxes. The bracelet was auctioned off, alongside other personal items. For many in the poker world, it was a heartbreaking moment. A champion's greatest symbol, sold off to cover debt. Yang tried to bounce back. He opened a few restaurants, including one called Pocket 8's Sushi and Grill in California. But the ventures struggled to gain traction. They weren't enough to fix the damage. And when it came to poker, Yang never truly returned. He made occasional appearances, a charity event here, a small tournament there, but he was never a regular on the circuit, and he never came close to matching that one shining moment in Las Vegas. The man who had conquered the biggest field in WSOP history simply disappeared from the game. The deeper you go into Jerry Yang's WSOP main event run, the more jarring it gets. On the surface, it's a Cinderella story, a regular guy steamrolling a pro-stacked final table. But watch the footage back or listen to the commentary and the cracks start to show. But perhaps the most telling thing is how other players reacted. You can almost feel the tension around the table. The confused looks, the discomfort, the frustration when he'd overbet a dry flop or jam in spots no one else would. And then there were the spiritual theatrics, prayers before big calls, emotional outbursts after river cards. Some found it charming, most found it distracting. Watching that final table, it's hard to find moments of genuine brilliance, and that's what separates Yang from other one-time champions. Guys like Greg Raymer and Joe Hashem had repeat results. They proved they belonged, but Yang's win stands alone. Jerry Yang wasn't the only player whose main event win raised eyebrows. The year before Yang's chaotic run, another controversial champion took the poker world by storm, but for entirely different reasons. A self-made talker who used confusion, mayhem, and controversy to bulldoze one of the biggest fields in WSOP history. And just like Yang, his win left people wondering. Jamie Gold's run in 2006 is legendary, but not for the right reasons. He didn't just dominate the main event, he owned it. He ran like fire, bluffed with impunity, and pulled off wild plays. At the table, he was loud, animated, and relentless, constantly talking through hands, pushing opponents to react, and breaking every unwritten rule in poker etiquette. But here's the thing, It worked. Gold crushed that final table with a mountain of chips and a presence that overwhelmed everyone around him. Every hand was a performance, every pot a stage. He outtalked them. But as entertaining as it was, it came with serious backlash. He repeatedly revealed information during hands. It created a kind of psychological warfare that had never been seen before at that level, and poker's governing bodies weren't impressed. After Gold's win, new rules were introduced to prevent players from discussing live hands in the way he had. What Jamie Gold did wasn't technically illegal at the time, but it pushed the boundaries so far that the game had to change afterward. That says everything. Even fans watching back now call out the chaos. Comments say things like, everything this guy did would be illegal now. Others call it the luckiest run ever. One viewer simply said, menace to society. And let's not ignore the run good. Gold picked up monster hands constantly. But when you strip away the antics, the performance, and the run good, what's left? No technical precision, no long-term legacy, just one wild summer and a dozen bad habits that will get penalized in any tournament today. That's why Jamie Gold is such a polarizing name. He won more money than any main event champion in history up to that point. But ask anyone who's watched that final table closely and they'll tell you. He didn't win because he played great poker. He won because no one knew how to stop him, and within weeks, it was already unraveling. Before the confetti even settled, he was hit with a lawsuit. Gold had allegedly promised to split his winnings with Crispin Leeser, a TV producer who helped secure sponsorship deals. But when Gold actually won, that deal seemed to vanish. What followed was a legal mess that played out publicly, with voicemails, witnesses, and receipts all pointing to a clear agreement. In the end, Gold was forced to settle and hand over $6 million, half his prize, gone. And that was just the beginning. With his reputation already dented, Gold made the mistake that many one-hit poker wonders make. He kept showing up, expecting the cards to keep saving him, but the magic was gone. In televised cash games and tournament appearances, he looked lost. His signature table talk, the very thing that helped him dominate amateurs, fell flat against pros who'd seen it all before. He was outmatched, outplayed, and exposed. Every attempt to recapture the glory only made it worse. He fumbled through hands, bled chips, delivered forced commentary that had zero impact on the game, and when he was challenged on his performance, he brushed it off, claiming he wasn't really trying or that he was just there for fun. But the poker world doesn't give free passes, especially not to someone who cashed in on a gimmick. Instead of putting in the work and evolving with the new generation, Gold chased quick wins. Branding deals, speaking gigs, corporate appearances. He turned his main event title into a business card, and for a while it worked, but only outside the actual game. Inside poker, his credibility was dead. While players like Tom Dwan and Jason Mercier were revolutionizing strategy and pushing boundaries, Gold was stuck in 2006, still trying to bluff his way through a game that had already moved on. By the mid-2000s teens, he wasn't a name you saw on chip counts. He wasn't feared. He wasn't respected. He became the poker version of a novelty act, someone you'd invite to a charity event or a casual home game, not a serious tournament. Today, Jamie Gold still carries the title of world champion, but that's all it is. A title, a frozen moment in time, because when it comes to poker, legacy is earned through consistency, through adaptation, through proving you belong in every era. And Jamie Gold never did. It's the question that lingers over both of their names, the one that resurfaces every time poker fans revisit the old final tables. Did Jerry Yang and Jamie Gold actually deserve to win the main event? Technically, sure, they played, they survived, they won. But poker isn't just about results, it's about how you get there, and that's where both of their legacies fall apart. Jerry Yang bulldozed his table with oversized raises and emotion-fueled decisions. He called, he shoved, he prayed, and the cards came through. It wasn't polished, it wasn't methodical, it was adrenaline and hope dressed up as strategy. He never proved he could do it again. He didn't even try. He disappeared from the poker scene almost entirely, reappearing only in low-stakes charity games or small local events. And that silence speaks volumes. Jamie Gold, on the other hand, played people like instruments. He got in their heads, talked them into folds, bluffed with bottom pair, and made it stick. But his game couldn't survive outside of that one tournament. The moment he sat across from actual killers, the talk stopped working, and the losses piled up. Neither of them adapted, neither built on their win, neither left behind a legacy that other pros admire or aspire to. And that's the real answer to whether they deserved it. They won the titles, yes, but they never earned the reverence, they never earned the fear. They didn't become the type of player whose presence at a table changes the dynamic. They didn't evolve into legends. They were lightning strikes, brief, blinding, and gone before the smoke cleared. Yang earned around $8.4 million in total tournament winnings, and over $8.25 million of that came from one single tournament. Everything else, barely a blip. Jamie Gold won $12 million, the biggest main event prize at the time, and gave up half of it in court. His total live earnings, still mostly made up of that one epic heater. 2 players, 2 unforgettable runs, but no lasting presence, no feared return, no defining moment outside of their one headline. And that's why their names come up again and again, not as legends, but as outliers, as what-if stories, as reminders that in poker, one lucky run can crown a world champion, but it can't crown a great. So who do you think was worse? The relentless wildcard who prayed his way through the final table, or the silver-tongued manipulator who talked his way to 12 million? Let us know in the comments. And if you thought this was wild, wait until you hear what happened to Annie Duke. Click here to watch the story of her downfall, and how poker's so-called Duchess lost it all.